Praise the Lord, everyone. Happy Thursday. I pray all of you are doing well. Here we are at the last day of October, getting ready to cross into November shortly. God is just so good. So I just want to encourage you all on today. Are you using what God has given you? Are you using the gifts that God has placed inside of you? So I'm coming from Matthew chapter 25, starting at verse 14, concluding at verse 29. So again, this is Matthew chapter 25, starting at verse 14, concluding at verse 29. But I may be stopping here and there. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one, he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. So what has God given you? God has given us gifts. He has given us gifts. Maybe he's given you 5 gifts. Maybe he's giving you 2 gifts. Maybe he's giving you 1 gift. But are you using what God has placed inside of you? The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. So the master had gave the servants time. He had gave them time to use what he had given them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. So he doubled it. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. So what I was seeing as excitement, the master had given him 5 bags of gold and he doubled it. He brought back 10. And seems like he was excited when he went back to his master telling him, see, I have gained 5 more. This is what his master said. This is verse 21. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant! Exclamation mark. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Let's read that again. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Have you been faithful? Have you been faithful over the few things that God has given you? Have you been using what God has given you? Have you been faithful over the little that you may have? Have you been faithful? Verse 22, the man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. So again, he has doubled it. His master replied, this is verse 23. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant! Exclamation mark. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Verse 24. Then the man who received 1 bag of gold. Now listen to this. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. So this servant, the one with the one that was given the one bag of gold, the one talent, he didn't do anything with his. He hid his. And then he gave an excuse of why he didn't use what his master had given him. Are you giving excuses of why you can't use what God has given you? Are you giving excuses of why you cannot use the gifts that God has placed inside of you? What is your excuse? Are you comparing yourself to others? Maybe you have not been given the 5. Maybe you have not been given the 2. Maybe God has just given you the one gift. But are you using that one gift? Are you using that one gift? Are you working that one gift well? Or are you giving excuses of as to why you can't use what God has given you? Continuing on to verse 26. His master replied, "You wicked, lazy servant!" Exclamation mark. So you knew that I harvest. You knew that I harvest where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag, listen to this. This is verse 28. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have, will be taken from them. This was Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 29. But listen to this, going back to verse 28. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. Verse 29. For whoever has will be given more. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. So what you don't use, God will give it to somebody else. If you're not using the gifts that God has placed inside of you, God will give it to someone else. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. So the servant with the one talent, he didn't use what his master had given him. He did not use what his master had given him. He gave an excuse and a reason as to why he couldn't use what he had given him. So his master took it away from him. He took the one talent that he had and he gave it to the one who had the 10 talents. He gave it to the servant who had the 5, but he doubled it and he came back with the 10. He gave it to him because he could trust him, because he knew he would use what he had given him. Are you using the gifts that God has given you? Or are you giving excuses as to why you can't use what God has put inside of you? Now going back to verse 15, to one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. So maybe you don't have the 5 gifts. Maybe God has given you 1. Maybe God has given you 2. Maybe God has given you 3. Maybe God has given you 10. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't compare yourself to other people's gifts. His word says, each according to his ability. So the gifts that God has given you is according to your ability and what you're able to do. So if God has given you a gift, then he has already given you the strength. He has already empowered you to be able to do it with his help. Don't compare yourself to what other people have. Maybe you see other people that are walking in prophecy. Maybe you see other people that are a prophet. Maybe you see other people that are a minister, and you know that God has not given you that gift. You know God hasn't anointed you in that area. Don't worry about that. Stay in your own lane and work what God has given you. So maybe God has given you the gift of encouragement. Use the gift of encouragement. Use what God has given you. Maybe God has given you the gift of writing, the gift of intercession, the gift of, it's so much. Like I said, the gift of prophecy. There's so many gifts that God gives us, but use what God has given you. It's important for us to know our purpose. It's important for us to know the gifts that God has placed inside of us, so that we're staying in our own lane. We're not comparing ourselves to others. We're not worried about what the next person has. We're not trying to be like somebody else, but we're being the authentically us that God has created us to be. Be the authentically you that God has created you to be. Don't compare yourself to others. So my question is, what is the gift that God has given you? Maybe you don't know all of your gifts, but what is that one gift that you know that God has given you? And if you know at least one gift that God has given you, are you using that gift? Maybe you're praying to God and you're asking God for revelation on other gifts, but are you using the gift that you know God has given you? Like I said, maybe God has given you the gift of encouragement. Maybe God has given you the gift of teaching. Are you using that gift? Are you using what you know God has given you while you wait for God to reveal the other gifts that He may have placed inside of you? But don't use that as an excuse to not use what God has given you, to not use what you know God has given you. Like for me, I know God has given me the gift of encouragement. I'm still praying for revelation on other gifts, but I know God has given me the gift of encouragement and the gift of intercession, the gift of prayer, the gift of writing. I know God has given me other gifts, but I'm still waiting on the revelation for those. But I'm using what God has given me. I'm using the gift of encouragement because I know that's one of the gifts that God has given me. So what has God given you? What is that gift that God has given you that you can use, that's going to help other people, that's going to help other people, that's going to encourage other people? Use what God has given you. Don't focus on the next person. Don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. Stay in your own lane. Stay in your own lane and run your own race. Run your own race. Like God's word says, the race is not given to the swift, but it's given to those that endure to the end. Run your own race and stay in your own lane and use the gifts that God has given you. So, like I said, I encourage you to pray. Pray for God to reveal your gifts. But if you don't know your gifts that God has given you, just think about your passions. If you don't know your purpose and you don't know your calling, think about what you're passionate about. What is it that you love to do? What brings you joy and fulfillment? What is it that you love to do that you would be willing to do it for free? What is that passion? What is that desire of your heart, that burning desire? What is it? What is that burning desire? What is that passion that you have? What is it that you love to do? Because that may be your purpose or your calling or your spiritual gifts. So just really, really evaluate. Pay attention to the things in your life and situations that move you. What moves you? As you go about your day-to-day life, what moves you? What motivates you? What is that passion? What is that thing in your heart that you want to help? Maybe you want to help, those that are less fortunate. What is that passion that you have? What is the need that you see that you want to help and you wish you could do something about it? What is that? What is that passion? What is that burning desire that you may have? And just work with that. Work with that. Work with that. We all know, we're here to give God glory. We're here to give God glory. We may not know our specific purpose, but we know that one of our purposes is to give God glory. However that may be. Maybe that's teaching. Maybe that's encouraging people. Maybe that's praying for others, sharing your testimony, but giving God glory. Letting the world know that Jesus is real. Letting the world know that Jesus is real, that He is a deliverer, that He is a provider, that He is your Father. Letting the world know that Jesus is real. We want to let the world know, and we want to be loud about it, to be bold about it, that Jesus is real, that Jesus is real. And there is nobody like him. There is nobody greater. We want our lives to give him glory. We want our lives to give him glory. That when people look at us, that we want them to see all of God and none of us. All of God and none of us. Because it's not about us. We live for the glory of God, and we want to be pleasing to God. We want to be pleasing to God in every single aspect of our lives. We don't live to please people. We don't live to please man. We live to please God. So don't even worry about what people think about you. Don't worry about what people say about you, because it don't even matter. As long as God is well pleased, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. As long as God is pleased with you. As long as God is pleased with you. So use what God has given you. Use what God has given you. So if God has given you the gift of singing, use your voice. Use your voice for his glory. Use your voice for his glory. Sing your heart out. You may not have a, strong voice, but sing. Use what God has given you. If God has given you the gift of writing, write. Let your writing be for his glory. Maybe God is calling some of you to write a book, but you're making all these excuses and you have all this fear. And I just encourage you to write the book. If God is telling you to write a book, write the book. You don't know what this book is needed for. Somebody needs to hear your story. You didn't just go through what you went through for yourself. You didn't just go through what you went through for yourself. Somebody needs to hear your story. Somebody needs to know what God did for you. Somebody needs to know what God did for you. So, speaking of, writing the book, I am a published author. I released my first book in 2021, and the title is Beautifully Broken. And, a lot of the stuff that I went through in my childhood and, things I went through, and God used me to write a book, and this book encourages people. And so I just encourage you all, if you're interested in this book, then you can just check it out on Amazon. It's on Amazon. This is actually my first book. My second book is on there as well, called Release It. Like, God is just so good. He'll turn your whole life into a book. Like, this, my life is right here in this book. Like, the stuff that I've been through in my childhood, the trauma, depression, etc. It's in this book. And I just didn't know that what I was going through was going to be a book. Like, in 2021, I released 21, I released my first book, and I cannot thank God enough how he is using my story for his glory. And I just pray the same for you, that God will use your story for his glory, that know that God is able to change your story for his glory. Whatever it is that you're going through, everything that the enemy meant for your bad, he is able to turn it around for your good. He is able to turn it around for your good. It may not look good right now, but we know his word says, Romans 8:28, and all things, and we know that all things work together for the good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So if you love God and you're called according to his purpose, then all things will work together for your good. So again, my book is called Beautifully Broken. It is definitely a powerful read, and I encourage you guys to check it out. Again, it is on Amazon. I also do personal copies as well. For those of you guys who may want like a signed copy, you can reach out to me on this chat or in the comments. And if you're comfortable with giving out whatever information, a PO box, I do personal copies as well. And my book is $25 a copy. And I'm just going to read the back of it, just to give you guys like a little glimpse of the story. Beautifully Broken was written to help and encourage broken women. I know what it's like to be broken because I was broken, but God healed my broken heart. My heart is in this book, and there was so much overwhelming emotion while writing it. And I pray that every reader experiences the same healing I have experienced, but 10 times greater. My childhood wasn't a bed of roses, and I've gone through several traumatic experiences, but God was with me through it all. In life, we will go through hard times, but God promised to never leave nor forsake us. You may be broken now, but you are beautifully broken, and God can use your brokenness for his glory. Allow God to be glorified in your life. I love God, and I honestly don't know where I would be without him. God has always been with me. I prolonged my own healing by procrastinating for years on writing my first book. God has healed me tremendously through writing this book. I was so worried about what other people may have thought. And I just got to the point where my obedience to God is what matters most. I know God has me on assignment, and I strive to obey God in every area of my life. I really was messed up, but God transformed me, and I have never been the same since God filled me with the Holy Ghost. Again, my book is called Beautifully Broken. It is on Amazon. It's $25 a copy. And my second book is on Amazon as well. And it's called Release It. And I believe it's $25 as well. So if you guys are interested, maybe you're going through hard times right now. This specifically for women, but men can read it too. Just to let you know, encouraging you that you may be broken, but you are beautifully broken, and God sees your brokenness and he's able to heal your broken heart. I've been through so much in my childhood that I was broken, but God healed my broken heart, and he is able to do the same for you. So I encourage you that if you're in a season of depression right now, if you're in a season of brokenness, and you're going through abandonment, loss, rejection, neglect, trauma, just so much you're dealing with, I just encourage you to check this book out, because I truly believe this book will change you, will change your mindset, and just encourage you to keep the faith and draw you closer to God like never before. So I just pray that you guys have been blessed on this day. I pray that you guys have been encouraged, and remember to use the gift that God has given you. Whatever that gift is, don't make excuses of why you can't use what God has given you. Use the gift that God has given you. And I pray that y'all have a blessed day. I plan on being back on here for tomorrow, Lord's willing, as we cross over into a brand new month. Y'all have a blessed one.